Hey, welcome to Entrepreneur Encounters, the show focused on small business owners, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and innovators just like us. Because our guests are just a little bit ahead of us on the entrepreneurial journey, we can learn insights and strategies on how to grow our businesses based on their struggles, their stories, and their successes. I'm your host, Brent Hefwasson, Milwaukee Small Business Coach, and I want to transform your hard work into hard cash. You see, the truth is, there are no self-made entrepreneurs or business owners, only amazing individuals who choose to reach out and form a community of support that makes them successful. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. Today, we're going to interview Kevin Logan, the founder of FSJ Enterprises. Kevin has dropped soundbite after soundbite in this episode that you're really going to enjoy. Let's hear what Kevin has to say.
Honestly, I was forced into it. My goal was to work that 25, 30 years and then retire. But somebody else had a different plan where my services were no longer needed after 22 years. And it was like, okay, bye. But all along, since I was in elementary school, I grew up in apartments. But I used to walk over to the housing developments and sell flower seeds to individuals. Now, my grandparents had a house, but at the time we didn't have a house. And so I would knock on the door where I saw somebody had plants and flowers out and say, would you want to sell my seeds? I can't tell you how many no's I got. I believe a couple of people just felt sorry for me on that one Saturday and just went on and bought them. But I had forgotten about that. And so throughout the years, unbeknownst to me, I've been exposed to entrepreneurship. I am the first generation out of three generations who did not drive a taxi cab. My father refused to let us. I had this great idea. Oh, we're going to get a fleet of cabs and we're going to do this in the Washington metropolitan area. And he was like, no, you're not. He didn't say no to too many things, but he said, no, you're not. He said, we drove cabs, so you all would not have to.
You know, sometimes it feels like some of us are wired for entrepreneurship. We've got the pieces that it needs to be able to step out and take the risk that it takes in order to succeed. However, in many circumstances, for a lot of us, it's going to take an orchestration of events that God's going to have to show us, hey, look at these circumstances. Now you're ready to unleash and work in how you're wired and work in your purpose. That's what it sounds like is happening to Kevin in this situation. And interestingly, it took him all the way back to the beginning when he was there selling seeds door to door to houses as a way to generate a little bit of extra money. I also want you to pause on the moment of what we can learn a lot of times from those people who came behind us. A lot of times it's parents, it's family members, but it's one of the reasons that we're doing Entrepreneur Encounters. I want you to hear other people's stories so that you look at it and say, hey, we did it this way, so you don't have to do it that way. That story about how his family had been multi-generational driving taxis, and they said, we drove taxis so that you wouldn't have to. I want you to embrace that. What is your opportunity that's out there that maybe others paved the road beforehand, made some sacrifices along the way that you now get the opportunity to seize? I want you to look at that, take that courage up in your hands and go and get it done. Now let's follow Kevin's journey as he decides what is it that he's going to do next now that he's got this opportunity in front of him.
And so when my services were no longer needed, I said, what do I have that's of value that someone would be willing to pay and they would see as being valuable to them? That was my struggle point. My identification I learned is to get into a conversation with individuals who valued having a conversation. If you didn't value the conversation, then you weren't my client. And I didn't know that at the time. I wanted to make everybody my client. So I was trying to, make the shoe fit and do all types of things, walk with the limp because the shoe's too tight, whatever it took. And then that got painful. I had to embrace my truth of what did I know? I know the logistics of technology. That really doesn't change. It's kind of like an oil change. An oil change is an oil change. And so I went to the foundational components there. So by myself, I identified and segmented those particular things that I wanted to focus on, those things that are my gifts. I believe that everybody is born with a gift, and whether you choose to use it or not is completely up to you. But if you use it and you give of that gift, you will never run out of that gift. The other skills and talents, those are things that we acquire And we may be excellent at them, but that's different from a gift that we're born with innately.
Wow. A lot of us have been there with Kevin, right? That situation of I'm going to go out and try and sell all things to all people because everyone needs my services. He didn't know what he was going to be able to sell. He didn't even know his secret sauce. He mentioned there that whenever he got into a deeper conversation with people, those folks ended up being his ideal client. He didn't know that when he started out. One of the key things I want you to remember, a lot of folks will try and beat into your head, hey, you got to know your ideal client, your buyer persona. There's lots of names for it. And tell me all the intimate details about them. Sometimes when we're just starting, usually, honestly, we're starting from a place of our own expertise. I love one of the things that Kevin said, that gift. When we have a gift that we're born with, it's something that we can keep giving and it doesn't run out. We don't always know exactly how these pieces go together, but I want you to pay attention as you're out there interacting with your client. The answer is never all the people are my clients. It's the reason the toilet paper aisle is filled with all sorts of different types of toilet paper. Yes, everybody uses toilet paper, I hope. However, there's a reason you got all these different brands. They have figured out how to segment. They are appealing to different types of customers, their ideal customer, in order to make it work. It's no different for your business. You've got to figure out who they are. You figure it out by talking. Love that analogy he put on of like, hey, I'm just going to wear whatever set of shoes are here and go do the thing. A lot of us have done that. How many of us feel like we are limping down the road trying to figure out, I don't understand why people aren't buying from me more? And the answer is because we're not focused in enough on what we knew. Kevin knew technology. He started to go down that route. He started to have some conversations and have some initial success. It does take time. It does take iterations. It does take learning, but be willing to ask yourself the question, am I doing this the best way? Am I talking to the right people? Am I using the language that they need to hear to get into those meaningful conversations and get some closes? Along the way, Kevin starts talking about how he gets into networking. I wanted to ask him some pointers on this because I know this is a point that many small business owners struggle. And so let's listen to what Kevin shares with us.
Leverage the correct way. And for everybody, this is going to be different. Whether it's people say, well, join professional organizations, this, that, and the other. Those are great, fine, but you have to work those. You just can't join them and say, okay, well, I joined, so now I'm going to be getting leads. I'm going to make money. I'm getting clients. No, you have to participate. You have to have boots on the ground. So whether that is going to the meetings, whether it's spearheading a committee, working on something. And one of the most important things is the ask, asking for what it is. I'm looking for clients in this, in that. People can give you clients, but all money isn't good money. So it's the caliber of client. And that's not to say that the individual today that isn't your client won't be your client tomorrow. So you have to leverage those relationships and who you're working with, who you want to work with, what other benefits may come with a relationship. It's a give and take. My mindset is don't always come to eat. Come prepared to serve at the feast as well.
There's several things that I love in what Kevin said here. Number one, come with an ask. Like, what are you there networking to do? Sure, we want to tell our story. Sure, we'd like to learn from other people. Wouldn't it be amazing if we talked to someone for 3 minutes and they were like, I would love to hire you for $50,000? That probably happens on occasion, but I don't think it happens as often as we hope. And I would say, come with an ask. It doesn't always have to be, can you hire me? It can often be, who can you introduce me to? Do you know someone? Here's something I'm looking for. I'm struggling with this issue. I'm interested in the following information. There's a lot of pieces that I think we could do, but figure out your one ask. Another one that I love what Kevin said is don't always come to eat. Oftentimes be ready to serve at the feast. I believe the giver's gain. I believe that if you're out there and you're being someone who is constantly investing and building into other people, you will end up surrounding yourself with other folks of a similar mindset. And that goes back to the ask part. A lot of times you don't want to ask because, like, I don't know, I don't want to inconvenience them. I don't want to burden them. I don't know if it's going to be fair. Look, let other people say no. But if our ask is reasonably calibrated, do you know someone who, have you ever been in this situation? I'm interested in your feedback. Most people are more willing to share than we give them credit for. And it's our own noise in our head that keeps us from getting some of the success that we need there. So I definitely want you to look at that. And then finally, remember, not all money is good money. It's an interesting expression, particularly when you're starting out and you're like, man, I just need anything in order to eat. And sometimes I would tell you, hey, if that's the person who's hiring you, as long as you're not compromising your values, having to work unreasonably and not get paid appropriately, and it's not so ridiculously outside your line that it's going to dilute your brand or change your reputation, sure, go ahead and get it. But remember that as we continue to build our business, there's a certain brand, there's a reputation, there's a direction we're going. There are stepping stones that we're doing in order to build that you really want to consider. Hey, just because you can doesn't mean that you should, but networking is essential. Getting out, meeting people, having conversations, doing the follow ups, by the way. If you get that stack of business cards or you get the digital connection, be the one who actually reaches out and makes that next connection. Be the one to initiate the follow up conversation so that that can go from just a chance meeting into one of those encounters that change the direction of your business. One of the things that Kevin gets onto that I love as well is that we not only need to invest in our business, but we need to invest in ourselves. That's such a critical aspect. Let's go ahead and listen to what Kevin breaks down when he thinks about investing in ourselves.
One of the most important things for means and resources is you have to be an open book and you have to open a book. And it doesn't matter what the book is, but the words on the page begin to become ingredients to an individual's success. Having questions and answering them, and and then sometimes thinking about them, and then sometimes saying, wow, I never really thought about that too much. How do you want to invest in yourself? And most importantly, what will you be consistent in investing in yourself with? Some people read a book a week. I'm not, I would love to say I read a book a week. I can't read a book a week. So one of my strategies for that is I keep 2 books on my desk. And every morning I read 1 page, 1 page on only. I digest 1 page from each book at a time. That's enough information. And then my goal for the day is how can I apply what I've read throughout this day?
That's solid gold, Kevin. When's the last time most of us sat down to spend time reading a book, to selecting a book that's really going to help us advance? And we're not limited to just books. There are amazing podcasts out there. There are articles. There are information streams that we can follow. But are we continuing to get better at our skill, craft, or trade? You may have heard me. I preach a lot of 80%. You only need to be 80% good at a lot of things you do in your business, but in your skill, craft, or trade, you want to try and get up to 100% if you possibly can. That needs to be a continuous journey. And we're not going to do it solely through experience, although that's important. So go find a book. If you haven't visited your library in a while, you're going to find there's a lot of digital resources out there, absolutely free. They are staying up with some of the most current books and releases and trends that are coming out that may be super relevant for your business. So if you can't go and get the physical book, consider a digital book. If you can't do a digital book, consider the audio book. Consider doing podcasts from authors that you would really enjoy and love to read their book. Because quite frankly, a lot of the information in those books came out of the podcasts that they were doing. They take that information, recompile it, re-edit it, and then release it in a book form. There are lots of ways you can get that information. But my question is, are you having an open mind by opening a book? The last one that I really took in was, how do you process information when you get it? Most of us, you go to a seminar, you listen to YouTube, you listen to a podcast, you take in all this information. And then about 2 days later, we've basically forgotten it. We might have a little step, be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I heard a little article about someone doing something 2 days ago. And people like, tell me more. And you're like, I don't know. It was about pricing. It was about people. Kevin's method is to read a page a day. I don't know what it is for you, but not only does he read a page a day, he tries to find a way to apply it. These are mechanisms and methods in order to actually digest what we have. What good is it to try and read 30 books in a year if we really don't remember them, we don't apply them, we don't put them into use? So find a system that works for you, add incrementally, find one podcast, one article, one news feed that you like to get in your industry that's going to make you better, and then find out how to implement. Kevin goes on to share his experiences and his perseverance. Such an important attribute for entrepreneurs. We've all had those times where we want to kick the ground and say, what is going on here? I'm not sure this is working. Let's listen to what Kevin has to share about the art of perseverance.
You've got to be truthful with yourself. When things aren't working, you've got to say, am I going to continue in this, or am I going to just stop it right now? Because it's good for you. But we need to put ourselves on our schedule to really reflect daily. I think that's part of the morning. And some people it's part of the evening to be able to do something like that. And then what are the things that are around you? I'm pretty sure if you showed us your office and I showed you mine, I've got sticky notes all around of words of encouragement and things that just come to mind that keep me going and moving, that help me to persevere through. One thing very quickly, many years ago, I had this meeting with someone who told me the truth and it hurt. He said, how are you going to compete consulting? He said, man, we get money from the government every year. I appreciated him saying that, although it didn't feel good. And I remember leaving that meeting saying, wow, all he has to do is wake up every morning and he's paid, he's funded and everything. I'm out here scratching. And I sat in the parking lot and I said, you know what? I'm done. Maybe I just need to just not do this anymore. Let me just go ahead and figure out what industry I want to go into. And as a person of faith, I said, I'm going to pray about this. And as I was pulling out that parking lot, I believe my prayers were answered. It was like, yeah, how are you going to compete? You're not. You're not here to compete. There's so many people out here competing, but no one's completing what they've started. From that day on, I said, okay, if this is meant to be, I am going to now work to complete the things that are left undone. My goal isn't to compete with anyone. If you think I'm competing with you, then we're not to work together or partner, maybe later on. But right now, I am here to complete the things that are left undone. And whether that's through my coaching, whether that's through my consulting, whether that's through my teaching, workshop, whatever, what can I do to help complete this?
Complete, don't compete. That is a great line that'll preach. Look, at the end of the day, a lot of us view what is our competition. I prefer to view the world in terms of alternatives. I don't think there's anyone exactly like you. I don't think there's anyone exactly like me. And since people buy from folks that they know, like, and trust, the idea of competing is a little bit out of place. So I like the idea of going out there and complete. What is it that you need to complete in order to get done? What is the perseverance that you need in order to endure till the end so that you reach that space you need to get to? Change your mindset around the competition and chasing the most fashionable thing and figure out what is strategically the best for you. And I think that's going to be amazing. Look, Kevin dropped some amazing nuggets of wisdom here, and I hope you can take some pieces out and be able to apply them to your business, because what we have going in here is really essential. Kevin had to dig deep. He had to understand where his skills were. He had to understand how to continue to persevere despite setbacks, despite changes in the road that he didn't know. I'm glad you got to hear part of his story, and I'm honored to be able to count Kevin as one of my friends. Hey, just like you, I can't do this myself. A lot of people had to pour in time and energy in order to make this show happen, and I want to highlight a couple of them. First is Kate Halfwasson, who does almost all the editing and prep work in order to get this show in the format that you can see it today. And also Chris Crane has done our music on both the intro and the outro. We've got lots of additional material. If you're interested, you can check out our website at mkecoach.com. Look for our insights. Look on our Entrepreneur Encounters page to find more information. You can also follow us on our YouTube and podcast channel. If you like what you're listening to, I want to encourage you to please share it, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. So again, thank you for joining me on this episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent Halfwasson, Milwaukee Small Business Coach, and I want to invite Chris to take us out.
Ready to take